Welcome to Leading the Follower with your host, Rebecca Benston. Happy Friday morning. We have made it to the end of the week. I am Rebecca Benston, and this is Leading the Follower. Just wanted to stop back in and continue our discussion from Monday. Hopefully, my thoughts will be a little bit more organized now than they were at the beginning of the week, though I'm not sure. It's been pretty draining, as usual. We were talking more about how we sometimes aren't really sure of what our purpose is until we've gone through some things, but that God always has a purpose for us, as evidenced by the roll call given in many different books of the Bible, where they list out the different names and different roles that people are to play, such as in the book of Nehemiah, where I've been hovering for the last week or so. Probably 2 weeks at this point, 3 weeks. I'm not sure. It's been a while. But anyway, as I thought more about this and thought about the roles that I have played in my life and um, how at the time some of the things that I've gone through have been very difficult, and I wasn't sure there could be any real purpose for those things. Um, Later on, after I had gone through a considerable amount of healing and done a lot of work to try to get past whatever had happened, um, it became obvious to me that my purpose lies in helping people through things that they think nobody else is going through. Um, this first really became evident to me when I sat in on my first Bible study at church. Um, I had always kind of shied away from group activities and things like that because I tend to be very self contained. I want to handle these things on my own. I don't like to share the details of my personal struggles with people, or at least I didn't like that. I'm more at a point where I'm comfortable talking with people about these things now because I see the benefit of sharing your experiences with others and helping people to understand that this is not just happening to them, that whatever they're going through, someone else out there has gone through or is going through something similar, something better, something worse. It just depends on that person's purpose and how God designed them and what He wants them to do with that. So once I sat in and heard people tell their stories and share their experiences, I realized, you know, I'm not the only person who's gone through this type of abuse or this type of a struggle, and it it opened something up in me. It helped me to feel um, more powerful over the things that were challenging to me. So um, it's important that we not be afraid to share those things. Um, for example, back when I was married, after we had our first child, first and only child, right before that, I had had a miscarriage. Pretty early on, I had been really devastated by that because I wanted desperately to be able to have a baby at that point, which is strange for me because for many, many years growing up, I had no intention of ever getting married, ever having children, ever doing any domestic kind of a thing. Um, but when I got married and was with my husband for a little while, it became a goal of mine to have a baby. It just seemed like the next logical step and the thing that I needed to do. So we had our daughter after it was a year to the day after the miscarriage that I was in the hospital holding my daughter. Um, and I thought about it and I thought, wow, it is so interesting to me that we went through all of this last year and this is what God has done in a year's time to turn that around. Um, but then after that, um, when I went back to work after my maternity leave and everything, I had just a strong urge to have more kids. Just really, really wanted to have more children. So we tried, and one after another, I lost every pregnancy after that. I ended up having 5 miscarriages total. I had 4 after my daughter and 1 before. And at that point, it had put so much stress on me. I was so depressed and so upset and had so many hormones, because I would get pregnant, I would have some of this stuff start to build up, and then I would lose the baby, and then there would be this, influx of hormonal angst or whatever it is, that I was going through, just trying to get my body adjusted to not being pregnant. So I went through postpartum depression also with my daughter. Once I had her, I had struggled with a lot of anxiety and depression after her. So naturally, when I experienced these other miscarriages, I had a lot of problems with depression, and it just threw me into a downward spiral. I was just really very down. So at that time in my life, I could not understand why I was going through all of this. Why would God want me to go through this? Why would he put me in a situation where I wanted desperately to have more kids only to take them away? Um, and I did not understand it at that point. However, years removed from that, I think my last miscarriage was in somewhere around 2007, 2008, somewhere in that area. Um, and it runs together for me because I had so much anxiety and depression at that point. Um, Everything was just so difficult. Um, and I could go into great detail about the pain that I experienced, mentally, physically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, all of that. But the gist of it is, it was a terrible time in my life that I went through, and I didn't understand why I was going through it at the time. Later on, I decided I would go into ministry, and that part of what I would talk to people about would be um, struggling through miscarriage, or dealing with that kind of a loss, because it seemed to me at the time that you know I wasn't the only one going through this. Every woman out there has experienced something like this. Just about every woman that I've run into has had either a miscarriage or difficulty getting pregnant, or difficult pregnancy, or whatever. All of the things associated with doing something that's just so much a part of what a woman is expected to do, just from our biology and everything. Is we're supposed to be able to have kids. We're supposed to be able to have babies and nurture them and take care of them and be moms. And when you can't fully do that, or when something prevents you from doing that, it's painful in a lot of ways. So I found a way to connect with other people, with other ladies who had gone through similar things, and it changed the experience for me completely. And it went from being a traumatic experience that I had that made it difficult for me to grow, to being a part of my experience that helped me connect with other people, that helped me to be more human, and um, more like the people around me. It helped me to develop more empathy and love for other women who had gone through the same thing, or even for women who don't understand that. And so my perspective on many things related to childbearing and childbirth, and and just being a mother and all of the different struggles you go through, anxiety, depression, all of that. Um, it shifted once I looked at it from the perspective of someone who was, for lack of a better term, more of an ambassador to that experience than someone who had suffered a trauma. Um, and really, it helped shape the types of things that I wanted to help people with, the purpose that I was seeing for myself. And I've said I do think that God made me to be someone who would go through these things, process them, and help others to understand and process their own, so that they can move past it and on to better things. And so that's what I mean when I say, sometimes what we're going through doesn't make sense. Sometimes what we're going through is painful for a very long time before it has the meaning it's supposed to have for us. So, um, and sometimes God has called us to that purpose and we're aware of it. And sometimes we don't know that there's a list that He's calling names from for this task and that task. Um, we don't know that until later. So, I'm not sure if that makes sense to anybody but me, maybe, but I'm hoping that it does. I'm hoping that some part of what I said um, hits you and means something, to help you with something you're struggling with, because it doesn't have to even be anything as terrible as miscarriage. And of course, there are many other things that people go through that are awful, and I wouldn't want to be the person who has to help others learn about those things. Um, I feel like my struggles are bad enough for me. God equips us for what He believes we can handle. And so, whatever He has put in your life as your struggle, your challenge, your obstacle, just know that He has also given you everything you need to get through that and to overcome, whatever's associated with it. Um, it's not easy. It's not always an easy task to go through the thing that we're supposed to go through and then come out on the other side of it okay. Sometimes it takes a lot more work than others. It just depends on what it is. So, whatever you're dealing with this week, whatever you've struggled with and, looked at as your challenge for the last few days, I hope that you can step back from it. Think about the fact that other people are having similar challenges. It's not just you. It never is. It may seem like it. You are never the only one experiencing the thing that you're experiencing. You may be experiencing it differently from other people who are going through it. Um, but you're not alone in the fact that you're going through it. So give yourself some grace. Give yourself a little mercy. God does. And while you're doing that, give others a little grace as well, because it's hard to be it's hard to be a human. It's hard to be a person who feels things and lives life and allows yourself to experience all of the pain along with the joy. There are so many people out there who day to day are so overcome by grief or negative emotions, or just things that are so difficult and challenging that they medicate, whether that is with prescription medication or an addiction of some sort, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever it may be. There are people who medicate with just food that's bad for them. Anything that you turn to help you not think about or not face your challenges or struggles. Comfort foods and things like that may seem like a mild thing, and in some cases it is. But truly, the best way to overcome um, grief and negativity and struggles and stress is to just look at what you're dealing with, confront it, head on. Just face up to what you're dealing with and remember who you are. Remember, God has given you a purpose, and that purpose was never to be overcome by the challenge that is in front of you. It was never to be on the losing end of that battle. God has always equipped us for the things that we're dealing with. And if we're not quite there yet, then that's when we know we still need to turn to God and ask Him for guidance and how we get past it. How do we get through this intact? Um, how do we find the lesson? How do we find the thing in that that's going to help us move on to the next level? There's never something we go through that doesn't have a purpose or a good reason for having us go through it. So, and you'll notice that I titled this roll call, spelled ROLE instead of ROLL, like it should be, because I do feel like in the Bible there are a lot of times when God calls out someone's roll, but it is displayed as kind of like he's calling attendance. Are you here or are you not here? And I just think it's interesting that the first thing that hit me when I was reading in Nehemiah was, oh, this is another one of those roll call deals, where he's just calling out names and, is this person here doing this and all that. But from that, I gained some understanding into what that actually means when he calls us into a role that we are to play here. And the significance of that being written in the Bible for us to see was probably to open our eyes to that, not simply so that we know who was in charge of what and why, because really it wouldn't be relevant to us in our day to day now, but the overall lesson of every person has purpose is certainly relevant. So I've rambled on long enough. I had significantly more time today than I had on Monday. So hope you have a great weekend. I will try to come up with something good to talk about next week. Just depends on what I encounter over the weekend. And I hope that if you haven't already, you will head over to our website at highergroundbooksandmedia.com and check out our shop. We have lots of great books that you can read over there. Lots of interesting stories, testimonies, and things like that that will show you are not the only one going through the things you're going through. We have lots of people who have been brave enough to step up and write out a book of testimony. And I think you'd be really, really happy to read some of what they've written. It will uplift you and it will inspire you. So take a moment, check out our shop. Be sure to get your orders in for Christmas so that you can get some great books for the people in your life. And also, if you haven't subscribed to Leading the Follower, that is our sister blog, be sure to go over and do that as well. That is leading-the-follower.com. Thanks for stopping in again and bearing with me. I hope you have a great weekend, as I said before, and God bless. Thanks for stopping by. Be sure to check out our website and blog. The blog is at www.leading-the-follower.com. Thanks and God bless.